says it's time for Giorgio's celebrity check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Giorgio says it's time for Giorgio's celebrity check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Giorgio says it's time for Giorgio's celebrity check.
Right, everyone, welcome to an all-new episode of Giorgio Says. We are live. It is Wednesday, February 5th, and as the title says, we're here to discuss Dorit's marriage crisis. I'm going to give you a quick recap and run through of the latest episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I'm also going to give you my final thoughts and conclusions after watching the final part of the RHONY reunion. You guys probably won't be shocked by what I have to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, okay? And it's not looking good for Blake, you guys. She is being sued again. Yes, I'm saying again because this is not a Justin Baldoni lawsuit. I mean, it's connected, but it's a different person. So I'm going to break that all down for you. We're going to keep it light and cute. It's Wednesday. There's a lot going on. I am reading your messages. I'm here. So let's just get right on into the show.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Giorgio Says podcast. We need to talk about So hit that play, stay in the know. Giorgio's here to steal the show. On the Giorgio Says podcast, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this.
Yes. Hello. Sorry, I was getting hydrated because I have a lot to say. Really quick, want to do some quick shout outs. I know people are still gonna chime in into the live as I'm going, but real quick, want to give a shout out to Jeff, as always, our channel's moderator. Thank you so much, Jeff. But also, yes, hello to Adam. Let's get the party started. We have a lot of tea to talk about, okay? A lot of tea was spilled. Also, did you know Kathy Hilton is part Chinese, pre-3000 BC? Whatever that means. Some lady who knows all about everything in Venice told her this. So, you know, Kathy never ceases to disappoint. And she always brings a lot of flavor into some serious stuff. And, you know, you just gotta love her. She's funny with her words, and her stories are hilarious. She really knows how to break the tension. But anyways, gosh, where do we begin? I kind of feel like I want to start with RHONY, because obviously this was the last part of, you know, the season's, you know, this is concluding the season, which, God, what a terrible season it was from so many different angles. I mean, we could probably sit here for at least 2 hours to talk about everything that was done wrong just in this one season. Because again, I didn't have problems with their first season as a reboot. I didn't. I actually recapped it all the way through. I was all the way to the end, straight through. This time around, though, it was super clear that there was just so much inauthenticity that it just felt like I was wasting my time watching at all. So this reunion really showed a lot, and it showed that Brynn absolutely does not need to be on this show. But quite frankly, I don't think we need this show. I really don't. If this is what they could pull together, I'm not saying all of them suck. I think there's a good number of them that actually do have potential, but my fear is that it's starting to attract the wrong people. Okay? People are going on there like they're being cast for a new TV show, and I get it. You do have to be vetted and casted to be on a reality show. I understand the process. My point, though, is that why are we not able to pick people that actually have interesting lives, you know, that are not coming on the show for a completely different ulterior motive or utilizing it for some sort of like, you know, Rebecca Minkoff is a really good example of this where, you know, she was a one and done and she's already made her statement, you know, like she's not coming back. She was clear that she was only doing this because her brand took a big hit during the pandemic. She said it, they gave us a flashback. She's on this show because why not? If it's going to boost sales of the Rebecca Minkoff, you know, handbags and accessories, why not? Why not? Like it's like, you know, so I do understand because Brynn brought this up. And I don't agree with a lot of things that Brynn said or did, but I was agreeing with her in this moment when she called Rebecca out. That you essentially came on, you didn't want to share anything, you policed how Aaron could even ask the questions around how can you be Jewish and a Scientologist, because in her mind, those two religions conflict. But it's clear and it's brought up that Aaron felt like, wow, like you got mad at me for the tone I used, even though I cleared the words with you ahead. So again, producing, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sorry. Enough's enough. What are we doing here? Why are you here? I mean, correction, Jeff. It was. I'm sorry. The reboot did have to me, I was really going into this season with this group of women ready to get to know even more about them. And hopefully they'd learn a thing or two from filming their first season, you know, and it wasn't. It was just produced moments that weren't based in reality at all. And everything that did happen happened off camera. What? What do you mean? How is it that you had the entire season and 80% of it are conversations that have to be told to us via interviews because we don't have any footage or sound bites? Leo says, is RHONY like Lisa Rinna? Well, it depends on what season. I guess if it was at the brink of Lisa at her worst on Beverly Hills, I guess then yes, this is it. This is the moment. But I mean, this was a short-lived situation. Rinna was on since season 5. She had a good 8 seasons before it got to the point where it was like, okay, maybe you need a break. Okay. These ladies have only been on our TV screens like what, less than 30 episodes at this point, and it's already like, okay, it's how can you be on our screens for such a short amount of time and it already be draining, toxic, and dark and twisted? How? Like, I still don't even know a lot about all of you. And unfortunately, the way things took a turn towards the finale was not great. And Brynn was caught in a ton of lies. And one thing I'm going to stand here and say is that I want to be clear that I'm not questioning whether or not Brynn was SA'd. I'm not. And I don't think that yes, she may lie about other things and embellish other things and stories, but I don't think that's dark, and that would be really effed up if that is something that she would make up. But I don't think that, and I don't feel that way. The issue lies with how she weaponized it to make Uba seem like she was careless and acting like a lunatic, knowing all of this, and that ended up not being the case. But speaking of Uba, I do want to say that although I stand with her and I completely understand why she was as upset as she was during the finale, and I can even understand why she has her stance on, the things that she says, that's the way it is. And if people feel like they need to censor themselves when they come to bring something up to her, then that's the way it should be. I don't necessarily agree with that. I used to think a lot like that. And that still comes, in my opinion, from a place of being a little damaged still and using that as a way to defend yourself. And I get it. I do. I really do. Because in that moment, when even Andy's questioning it, like, well, yeah, but that's not a healthy way to do things, right? You know that, but in the back of your mind, you've been burned or walked all over too many times. So you say things as they are, and sometimes you may say them a little colder or a little more snarky. And yeah, I get it, but I don't think that this is benefiting Uba either. Like I don't think she should be that closed off. But again, I think this is just moments for Uba. I don't think Uba is someone that's really going to stop talking to Brynn. I think she's going to need some time, but I think Brynn did some damage here, not just with Uba, but with the rest of the women, because guess what? They're not going to be comfortable to film with someone who's so nonchalant about not being clear on what was said. And also, if we are going to do this another season, can we please make sure that every single conversation that's being brought up on the show is documented on camera so we can see it as well? And stop bringing on people that don't want to actually talk about stuff, Rebecca Minkoff. You came on, you made a stupid prank of a joke. You then made light of a situation that no one should make light of, and it's just crazy. You came on literally to sell handbags, which explains why the entire season, that's all we saw from you. And then the moment that Aaron bravely, after clearing it with her ahead, hey, I want to bring this up to you on camera, like ask the question around being Jewish and Scientologist, like how does that work? But because Rebecca, and I've gone through this at the beginning of the season, I called Rebecca out on this. There's a lot of stuff there, and there's a very good reason why she's sensitive to the tone around how things are talked about when it's in regards to Scientology. And if you did watch, you noticed she got pretty defensive around it. And I won't bore you with that whole history. You can go back. I don't remember what episode it was that I brought this out, and it wasn't new information. It's just, I think it was stuff that fell under the radar. People just forgot that the links were there, but she's had connections to Scientology, and some would say she had a very privileged experience being a Scientologist because she didn't have to do the same things that other Scientologists go through. And I believe David Miscavige's niece, who's left Scientology, has been very vocal and even has mentioned that people like Rebecca didn't have to go through the same things. And so to me, that explains a lot of her defensiveness here. There was nothing said that was quote unquote disrespectful in terms of a religion. It's something that is not been well publicized. There's been tons of things that have come out around it. Now they're going to start tapping my phones. No, but I mean, even just being serious, there's been no real positive reinforcement around anything Scientology. So to be fair, people do have questions, and they shouldn't get this reaction if you're coming on a reality show, but you've got to get things cleared ahead if someone's going to ask you about something. I mean, what is this? No thanks. We didn't need a statement, Rebecca. We didn't need you to write on a little Instagram story, download it, crop it, and put it on your Instagram feed and be like, well, unfortunately, after, thinking through, I don't want to. No, we didn't want you to come back. You barely did anything to begin with. You were boring. Sai should have just been honest she didn't need to be nice and dial it back. That's exactly what she meant when she said that on the hot mic. She meant you were boring. You were boring. Now, I don't know if she's actually boring, but you seemed very guarded, and so therefore it seemed like you were boring. Bryn brought all the chaos, okay? And I want to be clear. I think Rebecca has a fantastic line of handbags. She does a lot of cute, trendy stuff. She does a lot of stuff. I just don't think this was the platform for her. And I wish her much success with her handbags because I understand it's really hard. But at the same time, you were on camera literally being vocal about the reason why you joined in the first place, which was just to sell more handbags. Like, okay, well, great. Bryn is a whole other story, okay? She doesn't quite get I don't believe that. I do believe she understands the weight and the damage that she's caused. I do believe she understands that. And I think there was moments where you saw her stepping it back, even though she's being called to the carpet, and as she should. She said a lot of things that were not true, or she mixed words, or she embellished. I mean, look what she did to Jessel. Jessel's like, before that incident, my husband didn't question anything I did. He let me kind of do my thing. And now that's all he's doing is questioning me. Thanks a lot. But, that's the gamble you take. When you go and put your relationship on a reality show, that's what happens sometimes. You can't control what someone's going to say about you or your husband or what they're going to say that you said. And, agreed. And I said this, I just was saying this, Aquarius goddess. Bryn is a liar and she's dangerous. I can't tell. This is where I'm stuck, Aquarius goddess. I don't know if I feel like she doesn't feel sorry. Like, that would be really horrific if she didn't. And maybe that's where I'm like drawing the line. Like, there's no way she could know the whole time that she was lying about that. Just for what? For camera reactions? For what? I don't know. That's a horrific thing to do in my mind. So I just feel like I hope that's not what she was doing. I hope that she does feel sorry. I hope those were genuine tears. But again, we don't know a lot about any of these women. So to put all this weight on like believing that Bryn possibly feels bad about what she did, it's hard because we don't know much about her, and everything we do know, at least from this season, was she was an extra producer. She should have been paid as a producer rather than a cast member because it seemed like that was what she was focused on. Guess who decided to join the party? Hello, Danny Gossip Girl. I'm just joking. Happy you're here. Good day to you. Yes, I do agree Bryn gets off on causing issues, but I don't think at this stage of the game she's going to be able to continue this. And I think, well, hopefully she knows that the jig is up. Like, we can't play that game. So if they are going to bring her back, I don't know what needs to happen. I think I've even said maybe perhaps it's not the cast completely, because I do think there's some strong players on the show currently. And you know what? I love Jenna, but I could take her or leave her. Doesn't seem like she really wants to share, and I respect that, but I don't think that, again, I think this is another, situation. It's like, why are you here? You don't want to really do this, and I feel like unless you're really willing to do it, then it's not going to work, right? But I also respect her in the sense that she calls the shots in her way, and she makes sure that she does things that make her feel comfortable. So I can also respect that as well. I just don't know if that's sustainable for a show like this. So dare I say, maybe again, I said this a couple weeks ago, maybe it's the production team that needs to be switched. Do we need a new production company? Sorry. What is it? Shed Media that does it, I believe. It's I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of both. It's the cast, and I do also think production also plays into that as well. And I don't think that a lot of them know what they're standing for in terms of like who they are. Right? We see that with Brynn. She has a lot of healing to do. I'm not being sarcastic or trying to be fun. My heart breaks for her. She's broken. She's broken. That is a shattered little girl, and that's what's sad about all of this. So I don't think the women hate her or just want to like bully on her. I think they actually took it pretty easy on her, considering the damage that could have been caused, specifically to Uba. And even Uba was a stand-up woman. You know, I'll take the good and the bad with people, and that's a situation that I can justify. Like, yes, is Uba perfect? No. Can she be mean and harsh? Yes, but she owns that too. People should be able to evolve. And I think there's room there because I do believe people like Uba who displayed that their heart is not made of stone at the end of the day. And she didn't have to get up and go hug Brynn and sit with her. She didn't have to do any of that. She didn't have to sit there as much as she needed to. So that to me speaks volumes about Uba's character, okay? Because you know what? Couldn't be me. It could not be me. If I was in Uba's position, it would be an as needed basis, you know? But Uba did give us, shout out to the Hills, Uba gave us a Lauren Conrad, Heidi Montag moment. She basically said, I want to forgive you and I want to forget you. She didn't say it like that. That's Elsie's version, but the way she said it was like I felt like the way Uba said it to Brynn was much more punchy. Like I feel like she said something like, you know, I do forgive you, which she was clear on. She said, I do forgive you, but I want to go back to a time where I didn't know you. Oof. That sounds way more harsh than I want to forgive you and I want to forget you. That's like the new updated version. But it's just, to me, it's sad that a lot of these women are probably like scared to film. If they're going to film with her again, they're probably going to be like guarded, which to me doesn't make, again, for a great show. But if I had to pick some people to stay and continue on this journey of this reboot, I would say keep Aaron, keep Uba. I do like Raquel. Would love to know more about her and her story. Who else? Sai. Did I already say her? If not, Sai for sure, because there's definitely Sai's got story. And she gets this. She did a little too much, I think, the first season, but I think they all were learning. This season, she really understood the assignment. And I think she just, some people just get it, right? Like there's newcomers that just get it and they pick up on it really well. But ultimately, I think Sai has a lot of story and Aaron has a lot of story too. Raquel, and as well as Uba, because I think Uba has been so on guard that she hasn't felt comfortable enough to share in a way to be vulnerable, because I think she knows what she's dealing with. So it keeps her on the defense. So I hope whatever changes they do make helps to keep people more open and keep people talking when the cameras are on. When the cameras are on, because that's the point. That's the point. You're on a reality show. You're not supposed to do the whole, let's talk about the juicy stuff after we're like demiked and the cameras go down. No, we want to know. I'm nosy. I want to know. Okay? I don't want to hear it third hand. Anyways, you guys let me know what you guys thought if you watched. And if you have been watching, where do they go from here? Do you want them to come back with just a maybe switch up some of the cast members? Do we get a new production company? Do we just put it back on the shelf and just focus on what we got and keep moving forward? I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts though, but we do need to get into Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because Dorit, she's really, listen, I know I've had my thoughts on Dorit in the past, but I love this Dorit so much. I can't tell you. And don't burst my bubble and tell me it's produced because I don't want to know. Let me get through the season and the reunion, and then I'll come back to that conversation. Right now, though, she is giving what needs to be given. Okay. She is throwing her husband under the bus any chance she can. She's pissed. And apparently so is PK. My God. Now, Adam, this could be good. This could be good. Also, shout out to Julia Fox. She does like my posts quite often. She hasn't felt comfortable enough to actually follow me on TikTok, but she does like my posts. So that's a sign. I would love to see her on RHONY then. If this is what we've got, let's switch out Brynn for Julia Fox. I think that would be fantastic. But this episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you guys, I mean, wow. First of all, the fact that there was so much going on. Can we also talk about, because I noticed this, did anyone else notice that Kyle was mentally absent for most of the episode outside of the scene that she did at the gun shooting range that she broke down in tears in front of Mauricio? Like, she seemed like she wasn't really, like, she was there, right? But I feel like she wasn't really like checked in. I was like, okay, why are you even on this trip then with Sutton and Garcelle? You don't even seem to have any type of, like, you're not adding anything really. But this episode had a lot of stuff going on, even though it didn't really seem like it. It flowed nicely, I'll say that, because obviously there's not a lot going on this season. Most of it's centered around Dorit and PK's separation, and it seems like Sutton is drawing up a lot of, like, fires as the season goes along. But one thing that was really clear in this episode to me was Sutton, when you see just the little bit that you do see of Sutton's mom and the tension it brings on Sutton, like you see it, like they show us this. I think it's brave that Sutton is putting that and her mom like that out on national television for everyone like myself to now have an opinion and give commentary on, because one thing I don't like to do is, you know, I don't like talking about people's moms or dads or kids or any of that stuff, because it's we're focused on the person. But when they become a storyline, like, that's a little trickier. But we, at least for me, I learned, and I believe Garcelle did a good job of pointing this out as well when the three of them went to dinner, was, you know, obviously we know on past experiences, we've seen Sutton's mom before because she was on the show when Sutton was opening her store in West Hollywood. And we saw that conversation was not the greatest. It was clear that there was some, you know, there were some cracks there. There were some issues and resentment. But this episode, we have Sutton bringing Garcelle and Kyle to Augusta because she wants them to see Augusta. She has this beautiful house. I mean, so beautiful, you guys. If you watched, you know, like, I was like, wow. And this is like a smaller house for her. I think she said it was like, oh, it's like 4,500 square feet or something. Like, that's some small house. Like, give me a break. But beautiful inside. She has it decorated so lovely, and it fits the aesthetic and the vibe of Augusta. And uh, what's really nice about the setup, though, is that she has a guest house, like a full-on guest house, it looked like, in the back of the house, on the property. And so her mom, and I guess they gave the title as her mom's friend, but I'm assuming that's her like male companion at this stage, lives in that small guest house on the property. But we have this moment where Garcelle is giving a gift to Sutton's mom. And look, would I have purchased a scarf for someone I've never met before? No, because I think that would be like buying someone a piece of clothing as a gift when you're meeting them. And I find that anything like clothing or fragrance, like that's a no-no unless you really know the person, like you've been together a very long time, you understand what they like. Scarves are, at least to me, the same, because some people don't really care for scarves, right? Now, I'm not saying that to excuse whatever awkward tension there was in the moment, but Garcelle did put a lot of effort into this. And I will say, where was Kyle's gift? Where was Kyle's gift? She just that's what I mean. She was like just hanging around, like she was like tasked with going or something. Like, and she made it clear, like, I'm only here because like they needed a third person to round this trip situation out, I guess. And it's like, okay, you didn't even, not a candle, nothing, not a little bottle of like vodka, nothing. Garcelle went to Saks, spent time at the scarf counter, which if you've ever been at like a Bergdorf Goodman or a Saks or Neiman's and you're buying scarves or you're doing all of that, you understand that it can be a meticulous situation. Okay. So I'm sure she didn't just run in and grab whatever scarf she saw. I'm sure she did her due diligence and she asked some questions to Sutton, like, hey, does your mom like this color? Does she like scarves? Who knows? All I know is when she receives this gift, it was very awkward because she opens it and she's like, it's a scarf. And Garcelle's like, it is. Like, what should have come out of your mouth is thank you so much for this lovely gift from Saks Fifth Avenue that you did not have to buy me. But it was awkward. Now, there's some people online that are saying that it was clearly awkward for a very apparent reason. I'm not going to say which account it was because I don't necessarily know if I see it that way. Again, that's jumping ahead a little bit. I'll assess it more next week when they seem to have more of a dialogue. This was a very short window, and I'm not saying that you don't need to see a lot before you can see it. I can see whatever this account was pointing out. I just didn't know. I don't know if it's coming from that place or if this is something of like, this is just how she would have been if Kyle would have given her that same gift. Like, she would have opened it and acted the same exact way. I think she's just harsh and she's blunt and she's clearly hard on Sutton because Sutton breaks down at dinner and she's really hurt that she doesn't feel like her mom even respects her, right? She talks a lot about how, she never really gave her credit for opening up that store in West Hollywood, being able to continuously, basically keep up the lifestyle that her mom was so worried about based on what Sutton was explaining when her and Christian were divorcing. And even, I guess now, she doesn't really recognize the things that Sutton has accomplished. She would rather recognize what Christian's accomplishing. And so that's hurtful. But at the same time, Garcelle does this, like I said, beautifully. She says, I don't know too much about your mom, and I don't think you're completely like her in that way, but I do think there are certain things that you are like her on. Like, you are harder on people. You can be really harsh. You can say things in a way that don't come out right the first time, kind of thing. So, and I agree with Garcelle. I really do. because I think there's a lot of that inner struggle with Sutton, and she doesn't realize. We don't realize the older we get sometimes that we can pick up on some of the things that we said we would never do that our parents did. Like, I'm never gonna be like that. I'm never gonna make a big spectacle of, this utility bill going up a couple more dollars. I'm not gonna make a spectacle. And then, fast forward, and then you've got all these things, and you're like, no, why did this go up? So it's like it changes, as you go. But sometimes I think Sutton is so focused on trying to get validation from her mom that she's not even really experiencing all the success that she's built for herself outside of Christian. And yes, it's not lost on me or probably Sutton that she is very well off because of her divorce and the settlement and all of that. So I don't think it's a matter of like that. Obviously, it's not a financial situation. I think this just comes down to a daughter wants her mom to say, I'm proud of you, and I think you've done amazing, sweetie. She needs a little Kris Jenner love, someone that's going to be there and be like, you're doing amazing, sweetie, no matter what the thing is. Even if the mom still truly feels like, you know what, that's a shame that she couldn't keep Christian happy. Now I'm saying that to be funny, like, because it seems like her mom is of that mindset. And the other interesting thing is Sutton's mom and my mom are essentially the same age. My mom just turned 80 in July of 2024. She'll be 81 this July. So they're like, it's crazy because me and Sutton are not close in age, but our moms are. Anyways, long story. But no, so I thought it was brave that Sutton was even putting this out there. And you could tell she was very uncomfortable at the house. She wanted to get in and get out. She did not want to have a lot of conversation with her mom, to give her mom, more opportunity to say something that she's going to have to answer to, because that's what would happen. But, I think honestly, though, when we get to like Kathy Hilton's little Capri dinner or lunch, whatever it looked like a lunch that turned into a dinner. But she did this beautiful Capri themed. I thought initially she was doing it to host Dorit over, and because of the Capri room that Dorit did for Buca de Beppo or whatever. I thought she was doing it for that, but it wasn't. It was because Kathy had just gotten back from Italy and she just was still in the vibes, which I totally get, because that happens when you come back. You just like when Jeff and I come back from Mexico, it's like we now want to start doing these small little things to make it still feel like we're still in Mexico. So it was giving much that vibe. And I thought, first of all, a Kathy Hilton lunch is never going to disappoint, okay? The amount of staff that are running around making everything look amazing is astounding. So, and she does this just for simple lunch, not even a whole dinner party. This whole thing probably was like days and days of planning, but it was beautiful nonetheless. But essentially, Kathy had Dorit, Erica, and Bose over because, the rest of the ladies are down in Augusta. Now, a good question comes up. Why wasn't Erica included in this trip to Augusta, knowing that she's from Georgia as well? And that could have been a great bonding. Now, see, this is where that was a mistake. Because if we're trying to get Sutton to get closer to Erica, as they have been at a much slower pace, because Erica's clocked Sutton from a distance and just knows how to deal with her at this point. But I think that would have been a real moment for both of them to really connect. It's clear Kyle doesn't feel like being there. She didn't even understand why she was being asked in the first place when they FaceTimed her, and she was laying in bed like a slob kebab. She was like, you want me to go? That's pretty serious. Are we that close? No, I'm joking. She didn't say that. But it felt like she just was like, oh, you do want me? Are you sure you want me to go? I don't have to. I don't have to go meet Reba, Listen, I'm not afraid to meet anyone. So the Rebas of the world wouldn't scare me. It's just more of what's going on there. But the fact that Sutton's able to talk about in her interviews that she was raised by a narcissistic mother, like I hope she's at least had that conversation with her mom before her mom sees this episode back, because that could do some damage and that could have a lot of impacts, especially because sometimes people don't know what they're getting themselves into when they're showing up for these filmings. You know, specifically like the mom being said, like, oh, we're just filming a scene. The girls are coming down to see Augusta, blah, blah, blah. You're going to come in. You're going to say hi. Garcelle will meet you, blah, blah, blah. But she doesn't, does she know about all the back end stuff that Sutton's saying in regards to all of this? I don't know. We'll find out. But at Kathy's Capri lunch, dinner, whatever it was, you know, first of all, Kathy is super funny. You can't deny that. She's flipping hilarious, and she says the craziest things, and she knows exactly what she's doing, which is why I love her even more, because she understands how to keep a conversation going and also how to weigh in to kind of cut the tension, right? And she took a lot of digs at PK. You know, she threw some shade that even Bose was like, that was real shade, but it was done in a really almost like very, like if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have caught it necessarily. Like you wouldn't have thought it was coming from a shady place, but it was clearly a shade when it was the part where well, first it was a couple of them. She called him PJ. She knows that man's name is not PJ, but she's funny like that. Like she'll do that because I think in her mind, that is her way of supporting, right? You don't want to call him, you don't want to make fun of him. I'll do it. She did this with Kyle earlier in the season where she brought up like something about Mauricio's working out photos in the gym and like trying to make fun of him. And Kyle was like, don't do that. But secretly Kyle's like, do that. I can't be the one to do it. So please do it for me. Like that's kind of what it was giving. And I loved it because it's like, yeah, if all of these things are happening to Dorit while this is all unfolding, then yeah, PJ, you know, it is. But it was when she said, well, when I met PK 10 years ago, I thought he was 56. So, you know, and it was like, and listen, not for nothing, when you listen to what Dorit is saying that happened here, which is essentially, she's dealing with a guy that's really pissed off that someone's not just bowing down to his demands. That's what it seems like. It feels like Dorit, and again, please don't come burst my bubble because I'm really loving Dorit 2.0, okay? I'm going to call her Doritos Cool Ranch because it's giving what it needs to give, okay? Even just her in the intro, she's just in a different space. So I just want to have this moment because I've always felt like she had so much to give us, and unfortunately she's giving it to us when her marriage is falling apart, but I'm here for it. I love an outspoken person who's sick of the BS, and you know what? She can settle down next season and figure out where she took it too far this season. You got to give everyone a little bit of grace. But she does relay when Kathy is essentially like, well, he's a good dad, right? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh. But I mean, is it really a shock? We've heard for a long time that PK was hardly ever home because he's either traveling or he's out on the road with Boy George. So is it a shocker that he's not really hands-on with the kids? Not really. He doesn't seem like someone who wants to be, frankly. I think it's just the way he is. I think he has been someone who wanted someone like Dorit when they first met, who didn't have all too much going on. He could be the center of her world. She could be the mother to his kids. They could live this fabulous life. They go to parties, and then she could be on his arm. And then the minute she started, and this happens a lot, she started to then inch her way into having something of her own. Now she's she's the center of attention. It's not just about PK. And that bothered him. He didn't like it. And he surely doesn't like it now because she says she woke up to a 7-page email from him that was very clear and very nasty about starting in, this month I'm not paying the mortgage. You're going to pay the mortgage all by yourself and everything that goes along with the house. You're also going to, he listed out a bunch of stuff that he was just not going to do. And so of course everyone's like, so it's divorce, essentially. Then Dorit points out, okay, well, we've only been married 9.5 years. We won't be married 10 years for another 6 months. But in California, the law is if you've been married 10 years or more, it's just an automatic 50-50. Doesn't matter. So a lot of people that are smart and trying to keep their assets and their money, they're going to do it before the 10-year mark. Okay? Makes sense. It's dirty, but it makes sense. Okay? So now it's looking like, is this what PK is trying to do? They're only at the 9.5-year mark. He's already sending these nasty emails, basically saying she's responsible for everything on her own financially. How did that work out? That's a red flag. I'm sorry. That's a red flag. And Erica's right. She should get a lawyer and she should start acting now. And this is one thing I'll keep saying this. I really love how Erica has like completely turned everything around, where now she's able to not only be aware that her friend is going through something scary and uncertain in terms of like what she's actually dealing with, on top of being confused about what this whole thing was supposed to be about to begin with, but nonetheless, you have her also weighing in to be like, I should have done things sooner. I should have not waited around because I was scared. Or, a lot of times, a lot of us react that way. We don't do anything. We know there's things we could do, but we're so shell shocked, we're stuck in it. And so Erica was, that empowerment that she was giving her in that moment was so real. I felt like that was very much authentic because it's based in reality for Erica. She gets it more than anyone else at that table probably gets it. Get a lawyer. Don't take that email lightly. People can be very different when you're breaking up, specifically when money's involved, specifically when there's assets, specifically when you've had a lot of time together. So it's tricky to navigate. And, Dorit, they have kids. And so all of that being said, there's a lot to manage. And, I think also it's going to be telling what happens at the reunion, what that update's going to be when they get to that point. Because I'm sure this isn't helping matters. Because I feel like every episode that comes out, there's more that is said about PK in a negative way. And he's already spoken out about how he doesn't like it. And he feels like it's impacted his marriage negatively. And I even think he said something to the context of it. He doesn't even really want to work anything out. So that's got to be hard to hear, But unfortunately, this is what happens. You go on these, shows and people like to blame the show. But I don't think that's, you can't blame the show for pointing out things that are there. You just can't. You signed up for something. If you're not good enough to mask it, like Dorit did, her best to do, according to her, the last few years, trying to cover for PK, trying to keep him not looking like the bad guy, because I can guarantee you those conversations at home were PK being like, you better not make me look like garbage, woman. Like, it. Don't embarrass me. And it's like, okay, well, stop going out and being a dumbass. Don't go have cocktails and then get behind the wheel of a car. So then I have to pick up the ball and cover this up by denying and deflecting. Come on, give me a break. Also, Dorit had a conversation with Lisa Rinna before this season. And she said, Rinna said, if you're not going to go in and you're not going to throw it all out against the wall, then don't do it. So I guess Dorit's going to throw it all against the wall. And is part of that motivated by keeping her spot on the show? Probably. But when you're down, baby. If your man's leaving and the show's going to leave you high and dry, unless you start talking, guess what? I'm going to start talking. Because if I'm losing that, I'm not losing this too. Sorry. One other point I want to make, and this was when Beauvais, who I love Beauvais, okay? Beauvais is, first of all, she's giving the facial expressions, which I absolutely love because I'm the same way. I can't hide what I'm thinking on my face as much as I try to not say it. It's on my face a lot of times. And she's a reactive person in the moment. And I love it so much. I love watching her and I love when she chimes in. And I do really love this friendship that has blossomed between her and Dorit. I'm sorry. I love it. I'm here for it. And I think she's showing up like a real woman would in a situation, supporting the woman that's going through something. And no, she doesn't know all the back end history of how Dorit is necessarily. And she'll probably find out more about that as she continues to be on the show, if they're on the show together going forward. I just feel like in this moment when she goes to Kathy to say, you know, I'm getting this cold feeling from your sister Kyle, and I'm not really sure why. Because again, when Kyle storms out of Beau's house, she doesn't apologize to Beau's about storming out of her house and being absolutely rude, screaming at people in someone else's home. She never directly pulled Beau's aside and said, you know what, that was terrible. But instead, she invited everyone but Beau's to dinner, essentially, to apologize to them. Which, sure, that's fine, but like, you should have made the first call and taken Beau's to lunch or to have a drink and apologize, and she hasn't. So for her to bring that up to Kathy, but Kathy didn't really seem fazed by it, if I'm honest. And if, in fact, I would say that based on Kathy's response, I don't know if you guys clocked this, but it sounds like Kathy's learned that she's got to appease Kyle or it's going to go left. And I think in order for her to keep the peace and show up the way that Kyle wants her to show up, she's got to do it that way. There's not really room for Kathy to, you know, say, hey, this isn't cool, because I don't think that there's much wiggle room for that based on prior history. And there is a lot going on there with the sisters. They have a lot of history there. So, you know, it's just interesting. But yes, good on Beau's. And I said it. I think Beau's and Kyle are not going to get along because I think Beau's is a smart woman and she can clock Kyle's BS. You don't need to be on the show 13 seasons to understand that she's deflecting and doesn't lead by example. She tells people don't leave, be honest, and then she does the complete opposite and then justifies it somehow or doesn't take real accountability. And I'm glad. And my sister, who is my best friend, essentially is a Capricorn. So I get it when Kathy's like, well, you know, she's a Capricorn. And she was right about one thing. They could be pissed off at you all the day long, but that Capricorn will show up if you need them. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They'll show up. So, you know, look, do I think that maybe some of the stuff with Dorit is perhaps produced? Maybe. I don't think this whole thing is made up and produced, though. I get a lot of message every time I recap Beverly Hills that it's, you know, like, oh, it's all fake. I don't know if Dorit's that good of an actress, okay? Now, if she was able to do this in her accent, whatever that accent was supposed to be, then I would question it more. But she's lost the accent, guys. Like, she's done. She's done. Anyways, you guys can let me know. Did you watch Beverly Hills? What do you think's going to happen next week when Garcelle and Sutton's mom, Reba, doesn't look like it's a good conversation? Anyways, let me know your thoughts on everything regarding Dorit and PK. And what do you guys think? Do you think Kathy is really part Chinese pre-3000 BC? Can someone explain to me what the 3000 BC means? Is that before? Okay. Ponder on that and come back to me. But I do want to talk about the update regarding Blake Lively. You got back just in time, Leo. We're just now getting into this. But we have to talk about it because I think it's listen, couple things we need to talk about. First of all, shout out to Anna Kendrick. This is where we're going to start before I give the Blake Lively update. Shout out to Anna Kendrick. Because how unfair, right? You bust your tail. You bust your tail. You've done about 50 movies at this point. You've brought in about 2 billion, excuse me, in box office sales. You have a sequel to a movie that was highly like people really wanted this sequel. I will say I loved A Simple Favor. I'll never forget it. I watched it on the way. I believe I was on my way to London, or was it on the way to Thailand? I don't remember, but I remember watching it on the plane and I was hooked. I loved it. I loved everything about it. So I was excited when there was talks that there would be a sequel because I was like, this was great. Unfortunately, with everything that's happened around It Ends With Us and all of that, obviously there's been little to no speak on anything regarding the sequel, even though it's been filmed, it's edited, well, all that good stuff, right? We didn't even have a movie poster up until, okay, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before. But Blake Lively, she hasn't really said much, but she did do her job and post the poster for Another Simple Favor, which is the title of the sequel. Okay, it's not Simple Favor 2, it's Another Simple Favor. Okay, couple things though. Aside from me being irked that this is unfortunately going to impact Anna Kendrick, because let's be honest, this movie would have gotten the fair treatment, and I don't think it would have gone straight to streaming. I think this would have been in the theaters. I really do. I could be wrong, but this is going to stream in May. I think it's May 1st or May 6th. I don't remember. Too far away from now. Don't show us a movie poster and no trailer, because we haven't even seen. This is the first photo that we have of the movie, okay? But one thing that really irked me even more was when I look at this photo, this movie poster, if you will. Notice that Blake, this is petty, you guys, so you can call me out if you want, but I don't think this is a reach. I think based on what we know about Blake off of all the stuff that Justin's defense team has thrown at us, this is very on par and very on brand for Blake. But look at this movie poster, okay? And tell me that you don't notice that there's a distinct, it's slight, but it's there. But Blake Lively's name simply is just got to sit above Anna Kendrick's, even though it should be the other way around if we're looking at it on paper. Okay? Why is Blake Lively making, I'm speculating, but I'm again, based on everything that we know, or I know at least, because I'm reading everything. I've gone through the lawsuit and the amended one now several times, and the timeline of relevant events. And I'm sorry, this smells like something that Blake would call and be like, I actually feel like it would look better if my name was sitting up higher, because I have less letters in my name altogether, and so it looks better. It looks more balanced. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and then I could see her going into like word salad. So listen, I'm not thrilled about a Blake Lively movie right now, but I'm not concerned with Blake Lively. I'll be watching for Anna Kendrick. Because, she is absolutely probably pissed. I'd be like, oh my God, Never again. We have a bestie in the house. Caitlin Marshall, babes, how are you? Look who stopped by. We're just talking smack over here about the latest on the Blake stuff. But yes, that really did piss me off because I was like, well, you know, if anything, they should have made her name the biggest one on the movie poster, for goodness sakes. I mean, let's not forget this disaster, okay? How disrespectful at a movie that's not yours to then give a special thanks and credit, not your husband, Ryan Reynolds, no, Gordon Reynolds, the person who played Nice Pool, the one that you just like clearly were taking jabs at Justin Baldoni. This is what Blake and Ryan do. This is the type of stuff. And I got another message today. It's wild to me. It's wild to me that someone is still looking at all of this and thinking that anyone who is not blindly just siding with Blake is somehow a misogynist or someone who just wants to be a womanizer or who doesn't believe all women. That is completely and categorically false, at least here. I always give anyone the benefit of the doubt, specifically women, because they get the shorter end of the stick. Everyone knows this. But that's why it's maddening when someone like Blake, who has the platform and the power she has, is seemingly and allegedly utilizing something very harmful to try to take over something that didn't belong to her. And that goes along for her husband as well. And some would say, now, this is really what gets on my nerves. All the people out here that are supposed to be advocating for narcissism and helping women get out of narcissistic situations have not pointed out any type of narcissistic behavior in any of the things that Ryan has done throughout his past relationships, how those relationships allegedly seem to come to an end, and how he's so easily able to discard a person and move on to the next shiny. That's a basis to say someone has not. That's not coming out of any of those people's mouths. They're still head on being like, no, you don't get it. This is how narcissists work. They say all the right things to get you comfortable. No, not this time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's a lot of projection, but believe what you want to believe. And obviously it hasn't gone to court and we don't know. I've heard that, you know, I think Blake's supposed to be releasing more stuff soon. Why is it taking so long if that's what you're going to do? Do you need time to prep it? I just don't get it, you know? Like, why is her team not being like, guys, let's pump the brakes. I think we need to re-strategize. No, they're like, yeah, no, go. Go harder. Get him, girl. You show him. Meanwhile, the sad part of all of it is that she's just a young nepo brat that has never been told no, and everyone around her gasses her bubble up so that she never has to deal with not being the best or not being who she's being told that she is. When you look at the text messages between Justin and Ryan Reynolds, where it's like Ryan's telling Justin that she passes on every movie and every director. Like, she's just got it like that. Like, she wants to just pass on. It's just not the right project. It's just not the right director. It's just not the right thing. Sorry, not for me. No. You know what that's probably about? It's because she's being pressured into not taking any of those roles because that would take time away from being with you, which coincidentally in those same messages, you're going back and forth about trying to get Justin to basically shorten production time to give you 2 weeks back in your schedule so that you guys aren't apart for too long, even though you were also away filming at the same time in Canada. And I'm sure that he came back and forth, but when the strikes happened, he was home. And if you ever talk to If you ever talk to a woman whose husband's always been at work most of their marriage, and that man retires and he's home all the time, it's giving that, like fudge. He's home all the time now. Also, the TikToks of people spoofing women going to bed early because they want to secretly go listen to that voice note is killing me. But it's so true, because women that are healed are being like, this is exactly what you want your man to say. I saw another funny TikTok that was really wild, but it was probably true, where the woman was like, Justin is the type of guy that licks his plate clean when he's done eating. And I don't mean food. Okay. Like, her point is that Justin's the type of guy that seems like he's not going to stop until you are absolutely satisfied and finished. And then she says, Ryan's the type of guy that would turn over and be like, did you finish? And I can see that. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying this to excuse Blake, because let's be clear, she's an adult. But that's why I say I think it is a perfect match, because she's easily influenced. And, it's a mess. But anyways, the point of all of this was Blake's being sued again. Yes, she's being sued. This time she's being sued by the crisis PR firm in the Justin Baldoni legal drama. So it is a connection point, but it is technically a separate person. And the reason being is that what had happened was, Jed Wallace and his company, that's the person that's suing Blake Lively, and his company, Street Relations Inc., were named in her original California civil rights complaint. So there was this attachment that he was thrown in there, not in the actual lawsuit that was filed in New York, though. Just to be clear, this was only in reference to the complaint. Okay. So Wallace basically was like, oh, hell no, because he's saying that Blake falsely lumped him and his firm into the allegations that were made against Baldoni. And he's like, that had nothing to do with us. I don't know why you threw us in there, but essentially now you have caused damage, and now I'm coming for you. Okay. It was giving very much Lisa Barlow. Go the distance on this one, Sean. Go the distance. I think everyone needs to start going the distance nowadays. I think people are really still trying to F around, and they need to find out, man. Good for Justin for sticking up for himself, because this type of behavior is making it harder for the real victims that actually go through crap. And I'm not saying that Blake's ever encountered anything, but in this specific situation, it just doesn't seem like her stories stack up with everything that they've put out in defense of the very complaint that she put out in the first place. So it's giving there's going to be a divorce. It's giving this marriage is not going to make it through. And that selfie that they took, that again just goes to show you how produced celebrities are. And more specifically, Ryan and Blake. And you know what? We should have listened to Martha Stewart, because she already said this. And we need to start listening to her, because she's their neighbor, or was at the time when she was on this show, where she said he's not funny. Ryan is not funny. He's actually really serious. He's a good actor. He's good at acting funny, but she was like, no, he's not funny. That just tells me that he's a lunatic. And you can just tell. You can just tell that he's one of those people, but it's not lost on me where that comes from. He himself was in an interview talking about how growing up, in order for him to keep it peaceful in their home, because of his dad being such an erratic, reactive person, in order to keep his dad from freaking out, he developed this basically OCD of controlling every element of everything to try to alleviate any room for his dad to get pissed off, okay? Which is sad because a lot of people have grown up in situations like that. But because when his father passed from Parkinson's, I believe it was back in 2012 or 2015, he says that there was a lot of unresolved issues there. So those controlling ways didn't just pop up on this movie. This has happened when you go back. I did a whole deep dive. I haven't done it yet because I was getting all the information, but I basically was doing like a deep dive of his relationships and how they kind of went from one to the next and who was the most powerful in each situation and what was it like towards the end and how quickly was it moving from Alanis to Scarlett and from Scarlett to Blake, you know, like those things. So it was very interesting because it was almost a very similar pattern. Discard, have something new within minutes, it seemed. Because it's very short. And you know that it's not a situation where it's like he's cool, calm, and collected. We've seen in Justin's filing that he screamed at the guy. I kind of tend to believe that. Couldn't be me, though. You don't want to get into a screaming match with me. Right, Jeff? Is Jeff still there? No, but in all honesty, I think this is gonna continue to impact everyone involved, but more specifically, it looks like it's gonna impact Blake and Ryan the worst. And I know other people have already called this and said this and they predicted it on their own, but I don't think that this marriage is gonna survive whatever this lawsuit ends up being. Even if they win, even if they won, I don't think they have at this given time, they don't have a chance in hell of winning with the amount of evidence that's stacked up against their claims. Okay. But let's say that they did. I would still see a divorce coming out of that. That's just too much damage. You're no longer the Hollywood power couple that had like, you know, Taylor Swift is your bestie and you guys could all go and be cool. Like no one cares about that anymore. Because now they're focused on is that you're looking like a liar and your husband's looking like the narcissist. Okay? Maybe Ryan is the Ryle. And Justin was the other guy's name. What was the other guy's character's name? I don't know, but you guys all call him Timu Thor, so that's what we'll call him. So, you know, listen, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. If anything, I hope whatever's going on, you know, Blake figures it out at some point because I don't know. It's very telling that these things can be, you know, oh, thank you, Caitlin. It's Atlas. I thought it had something to do with a map, but I didn't want to, obviously his name's not Map in the movie, but yes, Atlas. Listen, it's time. The jig is up. Like, I'm sick of the liars. Like, if you're lying and you're trying to pull the veil over people's eyes and try to use serious things to, you know, get someone taken down or take something from them that wasn't yours, then you deserve everything that you get, negatively speaking. Because again, why, like, if there is more to come, why isn't there been some rebuttal to some of the other things? I mean, we're talking about the man amended the lawsuit and complaint, and it's additional 160 pages in there. And we're still looking at hers in the same, like, whatever, like 80 pages of like cherry picked information. It's crazy to me. Got me all worked up. Anyways, I do want to say thank you guys for joining me live today. The chat has just been great today. I know I said a lot hello to a lot of you, so I won't go back and have to redo that again, but I do want to point out I did see some comments regarding the hat. Yes, shout out to Marcus. It's actually Jeff's cousin. He sent me he had some merch left over from Schwartz and Sandy's, and he texted us and asked, do you want? And I said, absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. So thank you, Marcus and Kate, for that. And other exciting news, you may have seen it on my Instagram, but I didn't get to do a live yesterday, but that was for a very good reason. So Jeffrey and I are launching a pasta brand. So we're going to be doing raviolis and dry pasta. So we were at a tasting event, our first tasting event for our pasta brand last night. And so that's why I couldn't do my live, because we had to be there early to set up and do all that. And so we're very excited about that. It's been very busy. It's also been very chaotic. Stay tuned for more, but you guys can absolutely follow us on Instagram if you want to support us and follow our journey. We should be launching officially in the spring. And the Instagram handle is Pasta Rituals, name of our brand, Pasta Rituals, get it? But yes, so that's what we're working on over here. And like I said, this time it is about the pasta. Thank you guys. It's very exciting. It's, listen, we love food over here, and I know a lot of you guys are the same. We're big foodies and snackers and like whatnot, and like it's so good. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased, and like we've literally tried so many different ravioli store-bought, and ours is it's so much better. It's actually the best. I will say that. It's the best. Anyhow, that's enough about me. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I hope you're doing things to keep your mind at peace. Try not to get into the thick of all the craziness that's happening on social media. I know it's easier said than done because it seems like that's all everyone's posting about, but there is a lot going on, to be fair. So let's try to give ourselves some grace. I will be back here with you guys tomorrow. And again, thank you for all the new subscribers. Thank you all for the messages. You guys are very, very kind. I really appreciate it always. I will obviously have this available for my podcast listeners. So you'll be able to stream this anywhere you listen to your podcast. And then obviously, if you weren't able to join me live, not a problem. Everyone's busy. You can always catch this on the replay. So make sure you shout out in the comments if you're part of the replay crew. But I won't keep blabbing. I love you guys. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. But until then, stay safe. And yeah, let's just leave it there because I will talk to you guys for like another hour. Okay, bye.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the JoJo Says podcast. We need to talk about. So hit that play, stay in the know. JoJo's here to steal the show on the JoJo Says podcast.